but because premiums are dropping, I can't pay $3-4 over spot for silver anymore because I can't even retail it for that.
The silver price went up today. In fact, as I woke up this morning, I looked at the Kitco app and saw that it was trading for over $24 an ounce again. That is a jump of almost 90 cents. But what hasn't been going up, and in fact has been going down, is the premiums and the demand. In fact, we are going to talk to a coin shop owner today who says that he is getting a overabundance of inventory from big sellers. We're going to talk to him about why that may be. Are they taking a loss when they sell it to him? If they bought it recently when the premiums were way too high? And we are going to find out what he thinks about the premiums coming down, and are they going to continue? Because I know, like you, I would love to see premiums for 1 ounce silver rounds get under $2 an ounce over spot at retail. That would be fantastic. So let's get him on the phone. His name is Josh from Minot Coin and Bullion. My channel is sponsored by sdbullion.com. New customers can get their first order of gold or silver at spot by going to sdbullion.com/new. So we have on the phone with us the owner of Minot Coin and Bullion in Minot, North Dakota. His name is Josh. Josh, how are you doing, my friend?
I've been great. Thanks for calling. How have you been?
Oh, I've been good, and it's always a pleasure to have you on the channel with me, so thank you for joining. I just want to get right into it. People want to know why are premiums coming down, but before we get into why, isn't it great? I was just looking at a wholesale list this morning, and I saw 1 ounce buffaloes at just $1.45 over spot for wholesalers, so the premiums on 1 ounce rounds are definitely coming down. First, I wanted to ask you why you think that might be, and secondly, what are they selling for at retail in your shop right now? Go with the first point.
Sure. Yeah, well, great question. And, I'm seeing the same thing. My wholesale costs have went down, and actually I've been able to procure some product at numbers less than those that you've stated. I have, as I mentioned before, a very good wholesaler, and I've been able to buy them a little cheaper than $1.45 lately. So that's a blessing. We're almost getting back to those numbers where it was pre-COVID, when, dealers could buy for 50 cents over and sell them for 85 cents or $1, and everybody was happy then. But I don't know that we'll ever get that low. But anyway, I think premiums have come down for the simple reason that demand is down still. I think the last time we spoke, we talked a little bit about how demand has went down. I'm still seeing it. I'm still seeing foot traffic in my shop. Just the big buyers aren't there. In fact, instead, it's big sellers.
Yeah, a lot of people selling.
I think yeah, there are, and I think what that's causing, it's causing this surplus of inventory in the channels, whether it be wholesale or retail. When that happens, premiums go down, and that's where we're at right now, and we're still seeing it.
Absolutely. I'll tell you before we keep going, just going from show to show. So I went to the Norman, Oklahoma coin show, then I was at the Tulsa show. In Norman, we saw what I saw was like weak demand, but maybe that was just the beginning, because that was kind of where it began, because I was seeing, 22 times face, 21 times face, and that seemed pretty low. But then we were at the Tulsa show, and there was a guy walking around. I don't know if he was a dealer or just somebody who was trying to get rid of some inventory, but he was walking around with a full bag of 500 face 90% silver quarters trying to get 18 times for him, and he couldn't find a buyer.
Yeah, I saw that video. That blew my mind.
Yeah.
That was, I hate to laugh about it, but in a sense it was comical, because why wouldn't you buy it at that price? Honestly, I would have. Had I been there, I would have bought it just to have it for inventory. But
I didn't have that kind of money. so that's why I didn't buy it. Go ahead.
But to answer your second part two of your question, what am I selling them for in the shop now? Today, I'm going to be at 2.5 over spot, which is pushing a little over $1 above my cost. And you had mentioned, I think before we started recording, that spot price is up today too. So, about the same time premiums continue to tick down, we did have a bit of a jump in spot price. So, it's still probably close to the same price to buy, at least in my shop today, as it was last week, just for the sheer fact that premiums are down, but spot's up a bit. So,
well, I mean, I would rather buy lower premiums and higher spot than higher premiums and lower spot, though. It just feels better.
Well, I agree, and most people are in that camp as well. It's a mental thing. It's not my landed cost. It's, what dollar amount or what percentage am I paying over spot, and that's how you determine, is it a good value at the time? And I totally get that. I feel the same way, but it is kind of strange how that happens sometimes as spot either goes up or down. The premiums usually, or not usually, but sometimes have an inverse relationship, making it the same landed cost for everybody. So, you try to plan and you try to buy when spot is low, but a lot of times lately premiums have been high, and then when it flips, it's about the same price that it was before.
Yeah, it seemed like for a while, and I got a lot of comments like this, especially 6 months ago, not so much today. But everyone would argue that, oh yeah, well, spot's going down, but the premiums are going up, so they can still sell it for the same amount. And while that wasn't necessarily 100% true, it is definitely not true now. I mean, spot has come down. I mean, today excluded, because silver is right now trading for just over 24. In fact, for the viewers, I put it on the screen. There's 24.12 is the current spot price. So excluding today, we've seen a spot price going down and premiums going down along with it, which I think has been great for the people wanting to buy, but not so much for the people wanting to sell. You had said there's a lot of big sellers. Talk to me about that.
There have been. I know we had talked, it was probably 3-4 weeks ago now, and I was just getting ready to go on a family vacation. And I actually had my shop intentionally closed the day before I was going to go out of town because I had a lot of bookkeeping and things to take care of. One of my regulars called, and he had bought from me about 3 years ago a pretty sizable amount of gold and silver. And I took the call because, like I said, I had the number saved. I knew who was calling. And he said, yeah, this gold and silver, it's just been kind of going sideways, and I have another opportunity to make an investment in something else, and I want to sell. I said, well, I'm leaving town tomorrow. How quickly do you need it? Well, I was hoping we could do it today. So I was at my shop anyway, so I had him meet me over there. He showed up with about 80 grand worth of gold and silver.
Oh, wow.
It was basically everything I had sold him a few years ago. And I think at the end of the day, he netted losing about $1,000 for holding it for about 3 years, just based on where he bought it, because he bought it in 2020 during the ramp up, when prices were starting to ramp up. But he was happy with that number. But here I have all this inventory now sitting, and I'm going to be gone for a week.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
I've since worked through some of it, I guess. But and then I won't talk numbers on this one because it's pretty sizable. I have another regular who regularly buys from me and buys big. Just call me on Saturday. He's wants to buy a lake property, and he wants to liquidate some of his stack, and it's into the 6 figures. And he's actually going to be traveling to Minot either today or tomorrow to do that. So I'm getting product dumped on me that I don't necessarily need. So we've talked about this before. What do dealers do when they run out of cash? Well, quite simply, you get other dealers involved, or you get your wholesalers involved. And that's what I'm doing in this particular transaction. I have one of my wholesalers that I had him give me, his price, what he would buy it for me or from me for. And essentially, I'm going to get the product, pay my client, and it's almost a break-even proposition at that point, but I'm okay with that. I'm just going to flip it over to my wholesaler, and he can sell it off across the country, I guess. So, but there are, aside from those couple big ones, there's a lot of people that are just coming in individually, $3,000, worth of silver, selling a couple ounces of gold. Just a lot of people are liquidating. And typically what I've seen over my years, summers are slower for buying. Not necessarily busier for selling like they are at the moment for some reason, but summers are slower for people buying. And that's what I've seen, where there's a lot of days in my shop, and I think I said it last time, that I'm buying more across the counter than I'm selling out the door. So inventory is starting to pile up, which isn't a bad problem to have, especially when spot jumps $1 in a day like it did between yesterday and today. But it's just kind of wild. It's a little unpredictable, but what's really surprised me lately is the sheer number of people selling.
Right.
And in a climate that isn't necessarily beneficial to the seller, because spot and premiums aren't all that attractive right now to sell, depending on where you bought, I guess.
So, Josh, that actually brings up a good point I was going to ask you about next. So, the sellers, for example, you had said the guy who sold you like the $80,000 worth of gold and silver, he netted about $1,000 loss, which obviously, assuming he kept all of his receipts, he'll be able to write off on taxes. But A loss is a loss regardless. My question though becomes, how many of these people that are selling at a loss? Like, how many of them bought back when, premiums were, $6 an ounce for a round and silver was trading for 27, so they're paying 33, and now they have to sell it back to you today at 24 plus, a little bit of a premium that you're probably paying them. I mean, how many of these people are taking a major loss for that?
Well, I'm not always privy to what people paid initially. A lot of times it's customers that are selling back to me that bought from me, and they come back with their receipts. So, it's a real easy comparison for me to put eyes on, and, we can talk about it. But a lot of times people just come in with their metal, and not everybody always tells me, oh gosh, I paid $28 an ounce. You're only going to give me 24 and a half or whatever it is. They don't always tell me that. But I would guess, just based on some of the people that have been selling, and a lot of the product has been product that came from my shop that I recognize, and I recognize the individual. So in my mind, I have an idea of what they may be paid. They are losing a bit because, like you said, they bought at higher premiums, and had premiums stayed high, they would have got a higher sellback price. But because premiums are dropping, I can't pay $3-4 over spot for silver anymore because I can't even retail it for that. So there is going to be that loss as premiums drop. So I don't know. That's why I always tell people, don't expect to get rich quick with metal. Granted, it could happen, but it should always be considered a long-term hold. And, there's going to be times where it is beneficial to sell, but human nature and human need dictates that people sell when they need to.
Absolutely.
So,
and
yeah.
I know you watch a lot of my videos, maybe not all of them, but I mean, I recently had just said that you don't want to put yourself in a position where you may need to sell. And granted, the guy who's selling to you to buy the lake property, that's probably not something he foreseen, and it's hard to put aside that kind of money. But still, it's like putting yourself in a position where, I've seen so many people do, I don't know if you saw this back in the day, but I did a video. This was, maybe a couple of years ago. I had highlighted a comment where a guy had said that he was putting a second mortgage on his house, going all in on silver. Now, this was during the whole Wall Street silver. Let's.
I remember that. Yep.
Yeah, silver squeeze. Like, where is that guy today? I mean, I don't know if he actually did it. Maybe he was just, talking, and trying to look big and chat. But, where are people that make those decisions? Because there are people that have made those decisions, and other stuff like Bitcoin is a good example. When Bitcoin was like $60,000 a coin, and everyone's like going all in on it, thinking it's going to go to 150 or 200 or a million. Where are those people today when everything's weak and everything's soft? If they don't have any money to cover their expenses, their necessities, their emergencies, and they have to sell. I mean, that's just got to be backbreaking. I can't imagine being in that position. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right. And, everybody's going to make their own financial decisions. But, I get people wanting financial advice from me almost every day. And I often have to remind people that's not my job. I'm not a financial advisor. And if you want one, there's actually one right next door to me. There's an Edward Jones right next door. So, but I said, people will ask, what should I do? And I just tell them what I do. And I tell them it might not be best for you, but, you really got to invest in your education, get all the information. And a lot of times that's why they come in, is to get the information before they do a big crazy buy. And I never recommend to anybody that they should borrow to buy metal. That, to me, that's just not a wise thing to do. Like you said, the guy taking the second mortgage out on his house, I would never ever recommend anybody do that. But if you do, and there's opportunity to take some profit, take some profit. Maybe don't sell it all, but take some profit. And then if you get into a situation, like you said, where you need cash, now you have some, and you don't have to liquidate it at a loss. But in my own mind, there's kind of numbers in my head based on where the economy is and where our dollar is, where if certain metals, gold and silver, get to certain numbers and certain ratios, I start taking some profits and do some flipping between the metals. I've done a video about that before, but a lot of people are not real aware of that. I don't know, kind of getting off on a tangent here, but in my mind, there's good times to buy silver and there's good times to buy gold, and they're not always at the same time.
Yep. And I agree with you, taking profits. That, people had asked, I've said before, like if silver ever got to like, you know, let's say $100 an ounce, and keep in mind it wasn't through massive inflation and the devaluation of our dollar, but it just started trading at $100 of what $100 is worth today. You know, I would absolutely take some profit, you know, out of some of my personal stack because I don't expect it to stay there. Now, if silver, and I'd like to hear your opinion on this, if silver ever got to $100 because our dollar all of a sudden is worth jack nothing, then I would not only be grasping my silver, I'd be hiding, you know what I mean? I'd be doing a better job of hiding it, you know what I mean?
Right.
So,
we might have to change what we flash on YouTube and maybe not be known as the silver people at that point.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I don't get very flashy on YouTube. I don't do massive unboxings or anything like that. I leave that to my Not Gold and Bullion. You guys should check out that channel. It's great. So.
Thanks for the plug.
But yeah, I mean, Josh, I can't tell you how much I appreciate these chats. I think they're very insightful for the people watching, you know, getting on a serious note with that. And if you guys haven't watched Josh's channel, keep in mind, I am not by any means sponsored by Josh. I just met him by doing my random phone shop or YouTube phone calls to random coin shops. And, you know, you had commented on one of the videos, you recognize yourself. Is that right? Is that what I remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I said, hey, let's talk. And I had him on. And before you know it, you know, you're just one of my favorite guests on the show. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. Fate brought us together.
That's right. Well, listen, guys, if I'm going to let it go here, but if you have any other questions, feel free to leave a comment down below or feel free to contact Josh at his coin shop. I'll put that information down below and check out his channel. And Josh, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Always happy. Anytime.
All right. I'll see you soon. All right, guys. Well, it was a pleasure, as always, to have Josh on. And if you learned a little bit, or if you have a comment or something you'd like me to ask him next time I have him on the channel, leave that down below, and maybe I will. Other than that, I want to thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and help YouTube recommend this video to others. And check out this video right here if you haven't seen it yet, because I'm sure it's a great one. All right, we will see you in the very next video.